Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned for my weekend reading report. It's my weekend reading report. It's time for that action-packed program where I talk about all the stuff that I read during the previous week. And man, did I read some stuff last week. So, we are in the midst of Sumerian September, the reading event devoted to the great Robert E. Howard, the greatest pulp writer of all time, and his most magnificent creation, Conan the Barbarian. So, last year, we read all of the original Conan stories by Robert E. Howard. We reread them, actually. And they were fantastic. They were wonderful. They were as great as always. And this year, because I'm such a genius, I decided, hey, let's have the whole month devoted to reading pastiche fiction, Conan stories written by people other than Robert E. Howard. And because I'm a special kind of genius, I decided to read the 12-volume set that was originally published by Lancer Books and then by Ace Books that reintroduced Conan to the public. This was the first paperback publication of Conan, all the Conan stories anyway. Started in the late 1960s. This was edited by L. Sprague de Camp. And L. Sprague de Camp, let's just say he had a heavy editorial hand. Not only did he take the original Conan stories that were written by Robert E. Howard, he took them, he rearranged them in the chronological order of Conan's career, as opposed to the order in which Robert E. Howard originally wrote the stories. And then he took some stories written by Robert E. Howard that were not Conan stories at all, they were historical stories, and he turned them into Conan stories. And then he hired Lin Carter to help him write a bunch of new stories, pastiche stories. And he included those in amongst the original stories. And he also took some fragments of and outlines that Robert E. Howard wrote about Conan that he never finished, and they turned them into whole Conan stories. So, I mean, it was some Robert E. Howard and a bunch of stuff written by L. Sprague de Camp and Lin Carter. And of course, L. Sprague de Camp didn't just give himself credit as being an editor of this series, he was also a co-author. Now he's Conan's co-author, you know, because of his collaborations with dead Robert E. Howard, you know. They were collaborating. You know, he was collaborating with a dead guy. So, yeah. Posthumous collaborations. So I never liked this set of books, ever, just because of the way it was done. And this set of books has been controversial since it was published. There were a lot of people when this set of books originally was being published that were not particularly happy about the way it was being done. And yeah, I've never liked it, this set of books. And it was pointed out to me, though, by a viewer, hey, when's the last time you read this set of books? Maybe you should read it again and give it a fair critical appraisal, you know. See what you think of it now as an old codger. So I thought, you know, that's true. That's true. I haven't read these books since I was a teenager, really. Nowadays, we live in a more enlightened age. And the Conan stories are published as Robert E. Howard wrote them in a couple of different publications. It's easy to get Robert E. Howard's original Conan now, and for years and years, that was not the case. For years and years, the only way you can get Robert E. Howard's Conan was mixed up with a bunch of L. Sprague de Camp, Lin Carter stories that were not nearly as good. So I finally finished this set of books. I read 3 Conan books this past week, starting with Conan the Avenger. So Conan the Avenger is an abomination. That's actually being kind. It honors Conan the Avenger to call it an abomination. Actually, my last word for the L. Sprague de Camp edition of Conan is pretty much that. It's an abomination. It's awful. It's awful. And this is awful. This is an awful book, Conan the Avenger. This was written by Bjorn Nyberg, who apparently is a 12-year-old boy who lives in Sweden. That's unfair to 12-year-old boys, but it's not a very good book. And Els Bragde Camp apparently collaborated. I don't know how much he did to the manuscript. I guess Nyberg, was introduced to Conan, became a fan, and decided to write his own Conan story, which is fine. It's fan fiction. Okay, that's what this is. And Els Bragde Camp took the fan fiction and decided to publish it as part of his set of books. Now, he's supposed to be the editor of this series of books, but Els Bragde Camp, I think he enjoyed the Conan series, but he always felt that he was a better writer than Robert E. Howard, I think. And so he never took the series all that seriously. And he didn't really get Conan as a character, which is clear when you read this, because he's supposed to be the editor of this book. So when he sees things in this book that are just completely out of character for Conan, maybe he should, change that or point it out to the author so that Nyberg could change it or whatever. But no, the character that is in this book is not Conan. Not even close. It's just like this cartoon, silly version of Conan. This whole story is ridiculous. I mean, it's silly fun, I guess, but it really reads like fan fiction. And like I said, the character in this is not Conan at all, which is weird, It's terrible. So it points out also, one of the things I just can't stand about this set of books is that not only do they not get Conan's character right, you get the feeling they just didn't care that much to even try. So anybody who's read the original stories by Robert E. Howard will see right away all the things that are wrong with this. This takes place right after Hour of the Dragon, which was retitled Conan the Conqueror. So Conan's queen has been kidnapped. She's been stolen. And, of course, there are wizards involved and sorcery and all that jazz. And so Conan gets his old pal Peleus. He's talking to Peleus. And Peleus tells him, and they're talking about Crom, Conan's god, the god of the Cimmerians. And he says, well, pray to your Crom for help. We need it. So Conan closed, this is what the book says, Conan closed his eyes and, for the first time in decades, prayed. O Father Crom, who breathes power to strive and slay into a man's soul at birth, help your son against the demon that has stolen his mate. O Father Crom, O Father Crom. Listen, I nearly threw the book against the wall. I didn't, but I nearly did. Conan doesn't pray to Crom. You don't want Crom to notice you. He will send you dooms, not fortune, as anybody who has read the original Conan stories knows. Crom had one job, and that is when you are born, he gives you the power to, as it says there, to strive and slay your enemies. He gives you all the power that you need at birth. After that, he's done with you. Crom wants nothing more to do with you. Don't pray to Crom. If he notices you, it's not a good thing. And as Conan rightly says, it was the Queen of the Black Coast, right? Yeah, it was the Bleed story. As he says in that story, that's all a god should be expected to do, You don't pray to Crom. Conan never prays to Crom. And here he does. And not only does he pray to Crom, He sacrifices a bull to Crom. That's right, an animal sacrifice. Conan never would do such a thing. That's the whole, it's just, first of all, he doesn't need Crom to go take out to get his queen back. He doesn't need that. He is a self-reliant warrior, right? That's his whole thing. He relies on himself for the most part. He doesn't pray. He doesn't need to do that. It's not in his nature. So this flies against the very face of everything that Conan is about. That is the worst of the awfulness that you will find in here. But it's just crap. So Conan the Avenger is crap. It's sacrilegious crap. So there's that. And then I read Conan of Aquilonia. So this is Old Man Conan. He's in his late 50s. He's older than me, Conan, in this book. This is Conan of Aquilonia, which is a collection of 4 stories written by Lin Carter and de Camp. It's not as terrible as Conan the Avenger. It's just not great. Conan doesn't act or sound like Conan. Conan says un-Conan-like things. Again, at this point, how does L. Sprague de Camp not get Conan? How do they not, by this point, how do they not understand this character? How can they not write this character? It boggles the mind. Anyway, Conan of Aquilonia, it's not very good. And then we get to Conan of the Isles. So here we have Old Man Conan. This is Conan in his mid-60s somewhere. But you know, he's still a tough guy. He's still Conan. For reasons, he decides to abdicate, give the kingdom to his kid, and, you know, take off and have adventures. So he has reasons, magically inspired reasons as usual. And it's just, again, it's not very good. It's weird. This book is weird. You know, there's a bunch of, of all the Conan books in this series, other than the aforementioned Conan the Avenger, this feels the oddest. It feels most out of place. So, yeah, so I finished it off, the series, Conan of the Isles. And it was a literal test of endurance, because after, oops, sorry, Conan of the Isles, I just dropped that. After this, after Conan the Avenger, I was ready to just give up. I was like, no, why should I suffer anymore? Well, I did. I suffered. For you, I suffered so that you will never have to experience this yourself. No, don't go to these books. No, don't read these. Read Robert E. Howard's original Conan books. Actually, I've read other Conan pastiche novels that are not nearly this bad. I have read some that are pretty bad, but, you know, it's a mixed bag, Conan pastiche. But some of them are entertaining and some of them are fun. And the entertaining and fun ones, you know, they tend to be okay because those stories understand the character, at least. Maybe they're not writing like Robert E. Howard and you wouldn't expect them to, but at least they understand the character and the world that Conan lives in. These books just don't seem to get it, and which is strange to me, because L. Sprague de Camp should have, but he didn't, apparently. So yeah, then Conan pastiche is a decidedly mixed bag. And like I said, it can be perilous. Venture in at your own risk if you are a Robert E. Howard fan who really enjoys the original stories. But I would not recommend you come anywhere close to Lin Carter and L. Sprague de Camp's version of Conan. It's a poor imitation. Let's just put it that way. So I'm finally done with it. I could finally stop talking about that crappy set of books. The next book I'm going to be reading is Little Fuzzy, which is entirely different than Conan, Little Fuzzy. So H. Beam Piper's Little Fuzzy. This is the Fuzzy Papers, which has Little Fuzzy in it. It also has the sequel, Fuzzy Sapiens. And I think, Roger, there was a third Fuzzy book by H. Beam Piper. But this is part of Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. You actually can get Little Fuzzy for free on Project Gutenberg if you so desire. That is this month's pick for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, and I will be reading this next, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to Little Fuzzy, because it looks very different than what I've been reading recently. And then after that, it is Vani. Vani the Vampire. Vani the Vampire returns. So, yeah, this Halloween is another fantastic Varney the Vampire Halloween special. So keep your eyes out for that, where I'll be talking about this gigantic book. This is only volume 1 of the most famous Penny Dreadful of all, with tiny little writing and some really fun pictures. So I will be reading Varney after the Fuzzy Papers. I did start reading again because I finished Conan finally. The Fantastic Four. I am reading every issue of the Fantastic Four from the original run of the Fantastic Four, which the original run went from 1961 all the way up to 1996. And then it was canceled and immediately brought back with a new #1 issue. But I'm reading that first volume of Fantastic Four. This is volume 5 of the Epic collections that collect the Fantastic Four. These are stories from 1967 to 1969. It's great Jack Kirby, Stan Lee stuff. I am on issue 71. This is the Sizzling Big Action issue. The Sizzling Big Action issue. So, yeah. I'm reading this, which is terribly fun. So, there's that. I forgot to mention my fantastic 500 book challenge. Where am I at the challenge now? Well, thanks to Conan the Avenger, Conan of Aquilonia, and Conan of the Isles, I have now read 187 books out of the 500. So this is a slow-moving challenge, and it's not going to get any quicker in the next month because of, Vani, but it should be fun. I should have a good time with that. So there we go. I will shut up now. I've gone on at length. I don't know when I'm going to see you again because the next couple weeks are going to be interesting for me and personally. So I will make a video and send it to you as soon as I get a chance. I don't know what it'll be or where I'll be, but I will send you a video sometime in the near future. I will catch you next time.